Okay, while she's looking. Given all that happens in general law or charter cities is a result of the decisions made by the City Council, Planning, Public Works, is there a process in place to make transparent decisions? If not, what process would be required to be implemented and require a decision-making process so ethically transparent decisions can be made?
Yeah.
How transparent do you want?
Well, yeah. Whoops. The Brown Act does apply. Now, you've heard a lot of reference to the Brown Act up here, and just for those of you who are not government junkies, the Brown Act is the open meeting law. What it means is you have to have a published agenda, and a majority of the governing body, i.e. the City Council, cannot meet without an agenda, without posting the agenda in advance, and except for certain things like lawsuits, personnel matters, they have to do it all publicly. And that doesn't change. But there are certain other things that some cities have in their charters. And although Perry did mention certain things where noticing could change, your ability to, and George, your ability to reference certain issues could change. And those really do go to the heart of direct democracy. In addition, citizens submitted hundreds of suggestions on this. Some suggested that the charter include lobby reform. That was not considered by our City Council. Some suggested that we have a provision regarding, quote, ex parte communications. That means that the council member for any item on the agenda, not if you call your council member because you have a pothole, because that wouldn't be an agenda item. But if there's an item on the agenda and someone has attempted to influence their vote on that item on the agenda, then when you get to the public hearing, they disclose all of those contacts. Now, our council chose not to do that by ordinance, and they obviously chose not to do that as a part of the charter. And it goes to the whole thing about, do you have a fair hearing if you don't know what the guys on the other side actually told the decision makers and when they told it to them?
Quick question?
Yeah, in regard to my question, which you answered with the Brown Act, if an item is on the agenda and there is citizen input at the meeting, how does the Brown Act cover that?
Well, citizens are required, the governing body is required to allow citizens to participate. So,
But why not?
yeah, well, I think one of the key things is, if anyone's ever been to a City of LA council meeting, it's quite interesting. Half the council members are walking around the chambers, they're texting, and they've got their laptops open. It's sort of a zoo. The first time I ever got to the podium, I'm standing there like, when do I start? Because I don't think they're in session. And what happened is finally someone sued and said, I didn't have a public hearing because nobody heard me. I'm on the record, but nobody heard me. And so the court held, and this went up the level, that basically when you have a public hearing, the council members are supposed to listen. And what they said is the right to be equally heard does not equate to the right to be equally ignored. And so they said that about a charter city.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
I think I have another little bit of a thing to add. The way the Brown Act would come into play there is if a citizen brings up something that's not on the agenda, it's not supposed to be discussed. The council can put it on the next agenda, but they're not supposed to discuss it with you right there.
But if the question revolves around something that's on the agenda, how about that?
Then yes, they can discuss it, sure.
The questioner is here, so go ahead.
I asked the question. I thank you, Sandra, for educating us on the details around the private. However, my question was more specific, not just about what process is followed, but you want to go to a meeting, you want to be heard versus ignored, and then after you're heard, eventually when a decision is made, yea or nay, just believe it, thumbs up or thumbs down. Is there a defined process that we can see, oh, that's how they made their decision? Even if I personally don't like it, I at least I see how they made it, how they made it.
Okay, you mean what's in the soup, right? No.
Is there a public record?
Okay, in the public record, no.
Is there a process on how they actually weigh the pros between option A and B?
What are the reasons?
A or B?
So you're asking if there's transparency about how they arrived?
Is there a process specifically to make decisions so that we see how there is a process in place and is so that it's transparently, we can be transparently aware of how they chose A even if I wanted B? Yeah.
I think there's, the answer is yes and no. There are different kinds of decisions that councils might make. Some are legislative decisions where they're adopting an ordinance or a law. They don't have to tell you why they decided to do that, interestingly, at least under state law. If they make an adjudicated decision, like a variance or some land use permit or something like that, as I mentioned before, they're required to make findings that we approve this because there are special circumstances or, you know, whatever it might be. And in Costa Mesa's case, a lot of those findings are set out in the city's ordinance that in order to prove these kind of things, you have to make these findings. So there is some record there, so you have some idea how they arrived at that decision and what the reasoning was. The difference is, under the charter, the only difference that I can think of, the charter versus general law, the findings requirement would not be there under the charter because the state law would not require that. City code currently requires that, but that could be changed.
Okay, hello?
Hello. Terry, I think we've answered your questions.
Let me look at
What is the general plan and how can we view it on the internet? What's the time to get signatures? How much? 8,000 or 15,000, I think it was? 6 months, okay. Can we put our own people on the ballot? How?
our own charter.
Our own charter that was explained in terms of initiative. What? I can't get that one, but